When you think about artificial intelligence, you probably think it's this brand new thing that just popped up, right? But what if I told you its story is actually super long and fascinating, and it all got started decades before any of the tools we use today even existed? Well, let's dive in and see how we got here. Yeah, no joke. The 1950s. While stuff like ChatGPT feels like it just came out of nowhere, the actual core idea of a machine that can think is way older than you might realize. So, we're going to trace that idea all the way back to its roots to really get how it turned into the mind blowing tech we use literally every single day. Okay, so our story really kicks off with this huge foundational dream, this concept of a machine that could actually, think for itself. But what did that even mean back then to the folks who were inventing computers? Well, one of the first people to really grapple with this was the absolute genius Alan Turing. See, he wasn't just trying to build a better calculator. No way. He was imagining a machine that could reason, that could solve totally new problems, and maybe even have a conversation with you. His work really set the whole stage by asking this deep, fundamental question about what thinking even is in the first place. Now, you've got to understand, this first version of AI wasn't about learning like it is today. Not at all. It was all about pure, hard-coded logic. Programmers would sit down and write these incredibly detailed lists of rules. If this happens, then you do that. They were trying to copy how humans make decisions. Honestly, the best way to picture it is like a giant, super complicated flowchart. So the dream was there, right? But man, turning that dream into something real, that was a long, slow, and really tough journey. It was full of these amazing breakthroughs, but also some pretty major setbacks along the way. And that journey had some pretty cool milestones. Back in the 50s, Turing came up with his famous test to see if you could tell if you were talking to a machine or a person. Then in the 60s, we got the very first chatbots like Eliza. Super simple, but for the time, it was mind-blowing. The 80s brought us expert systems that were good at specific jobs. But, progress would hit a wall. And that led to these long periods called AI winters, where basically the funding and excitement just froze solid because the tech just couldn't keep up with the hype. And this, right here, this is the absolute game changer. For decades, we tried to build intelligence by hand, by feeding it rules. But the real revolution, the thing that changed everything, started when we flipped that whole idea on its head. Instead of giving the AI a rulebook, we just started showing it tons of examples and basically said, here, you figure out the rules for yourself. Kind of like how our own brains learn. So switching to this learning approach was a fantastic start, but it was still missing something. It needed a catalyst to really take off. And it turns out it wasn't just one thing. It was a perfect storm of three key ingredients that all came together at just the right time to kick off the AI revolution we're living in now. First up, ingredient number one, data. And I'm talking about an unbelievable, mind-boggling amount of data. The internet basically created this endless digital library full of text, images, videos, you name it. For the very first time, AI models had this massive world of information to study, everything from all of Wikipedia to, yes, millions and millions of cat photos. But having all that data is totally useless if you don't have the muscle to actually process it. And that's ingredient number two, a huge revolution in computer hardware. We saw these massive leaps in processing power, especially from GPUs. Yep, the exact same chips that make your video games look so incredible. They gave us the raw horsepower we needed to train these gigantic new AI models on all that data. And finally, the third ingredient, we just got way smarter about how we designed the AI's brain. Researchers developed what we now call deep learning models. Think of these as a new kind of neural network, but with way more layers, kind of like a skyscraper. And these extra layers allowed them to learn much more complicated and subtle patterns in the data than anything that had come before. So, what happens when you take massive amounts of data, you add in supercharged computing power, and then you run it all using these incredibly smart new algorithms? Well, you get today. You get the world we're living in right now. I mean, think about it. All of these amazing tools you're probably playing with right now, using ChatGPT to help you write an email, creating incredible art with Midjourney, even getting help writing code, all of it is the direct result of those three ingredients finally coming together. This is the fulfillment of that dream that started all the way back in the 1950s. It's really here. So, just to wrap it all up in a nutshell, the whole journey started with this big foundational dream and these simple, rule-based systems. Then, that dream got a massive tank of rocket fuel from all the data on the internet and a huge boost in computing power. And that combo is what finally ignited the AI revolution we're seeing all around us. It's a complete journey from pure logic to truly powerful learning. And that really brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with. When you look back at this whole incredible history, from Turing's first questions all the way to modern deep learning, what do you think was the single biggest turning point? Was it the original idea? Was it all the data from the internet? The computing power from GPUs? Or was it something else entirely? It's a really fascinating question to chew on. Thanks for joining me on this quick trip through AI history.